I would love to speak to all the commission heads and urge them to really work together.
Tonight, families in Montreal have advice for the National Inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Goldfish, it's fun, it's challenging.
And the Arctic Winter Games craze take hold in the Northwest Territories. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. The National Inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls is in Montreal this week. Over 75 family members and survivors are expected to be heard during the 5 days of testimony. Danielle Rochette reports.
Cheryl, do you solemnly affirm that the evidence you'll give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Cheryl McDonald, a Mohawk woman from Kanasatagi, was the first to share her story today. 30 years ago, in 1988, her sister, Caroline Marie McDonald, went missing in Akwesasne. Her remains were found 7 weeks later, but some questions have never been answered.
Losing a sister, not knowing where she is, what happened to her, finding her body by chance, and then grieving and not knowing for sure what happened to her. So we didn't grieve.
Cheryl said her healing journey only started 3 years ago. She felt that she had hit the glass ceiling of human resources management work and wanted to live the next 20 years on her terms and be close to her children and grandchildren.
For 27 years, I would go from suicide to someone did this, or it was the only way out. She was in trouble, or he did it, or he knew about it, then suicide. And so I went through this constant churning and just set it aside and kept busy with work.
Another part of her healing is a red dress. She started working on it and bidding it in 2016, around the time the announcement was made to launch a national inquiry.
So this was part of my healing. When you bead, you can't think, otherwise you're going to mess up. And so I was starting to wear it before it was complete. And so when it became complete, I started to take it places. I took it to the Catholic Church, I took it to walking with our sisters, I took it to ceremony and dance.
The only thing Cheryl is sure of is that her sister isn't hurting anymore.
And she was my greatest teacher. And in our way, when someone dies, they say, they came in our lives for a reason to teach us.
McDonald has some recommendations for the commission.
I think for the leadership to start talking about it. I've yet to be called to the chief's table in Quebec. I would love to speak to them. I would love to speak to all the commission heads and urge them to really work together so that no one's caught in the cracks.
Family members and survivors will continue testifying over the next 4 days. Danielle Rochette, APTN National News, Montreal.
After Gerald Stanley was acquitted of second-degree murder in the Colton Bushy case, Bushy of Red Pheasant Cree Nation, the RCMP held town hall meetings to discuss, quote, community safety. The meetings were held in Biggar and Purdue, Saskatchewan farming communities west of Saskatoon. And according to the RCMP, they had nothing to do with the verdict. Here's some footage now of the meeting in Purdue from Thursday.
You cannot restrain somebody because you get charged. You cannot pursue somebody because if they get into an accident while you're pursuing them in another vehicle and they're driving the one they just stole from you, you get charged. What we're asking, and we know that you don't make the laws, you are here to enforce the laws that exist. We need to know what channels to go through. Nobody should end up dead. Nobody. It shouldn't be anyone who comes onto a property. It shouldn't be anybody who owns a property. Nobody should end up dead. Nobody should be running around wielding guns, whether it's a criminal or a property owner. Absolutely nobody. The frustration here is that we're told we have to be victims. So why do we have to be victims? Everyone knows you have to phone the police. Everyone knows that. We're not dumb. Of course we're going to phone the police. But how do you have the opportunity when somebody comes onto your property, you're surprised, you're outside, you're working in your yard, whatever the situation may be, you're surprised by it, or they come right up into your home. I know they're two different things. Everyone here knows that. A home invasion is different than a property theft. You can't get large dogs anymore because if those large dogs attack somebody that comes onto your property with an intent to steal, that dog attacks, the owner gets charged for having a vicious animal and that dog has to be put down. So people are frustrated that we have to be victims because no matter what we do, other than locking fuel tanks, which criminals come with bolt cutters to get into anyways, besides locking up sheds, which they break into anyways, taking keys out of vehicles, sometimes they just manage to strip what they can from it anyways. So regardless of all the preventative measures that everyone is doing in rural Saskatchewan, this stuff is still happening, and we're told we have to be victims. That's what this is all about. This is why people are angry. We need to know what we can do.
We're all a community here. It puts fear into everybody. It doesn't matter what part of this community. It goes from everybody, from top down. Like, there's fear in this community. So why aren't these guys doing anything for us? They just left us out here, and that's it.
And that would be a question to put back to your member of parliament.
Where is he today?
Yeah. All day. He's in India wearing a sriracha.
Which one, sir?
Muscatine. So I'll tell you, their response time is a lot worse than what it is for you guys. And we face the same dangers. I have a ranch, and I got to look after it. And then, in my thinking, I'm not going to shoot somebody for a quad or an expensive machine. If I do that, I got to live with that. It's all about education. I know that if a guy is doing that, hey, I'm in a rough situation, but that's the way it is.
How do
if
you
I
know
can
that's
get,
all he's going to do?
I mean, if he comes after me, if
how do
he's,
you know he's not going to shoot you?
I got to look after my kids and myself. If I know he's going to do that, then I'll do something.
Okay, but how do you know the difference? Does he mail you a letter? Or
No, you don't know. That's the law. You don't know. You take that chance.
You have the right to defend yourself.
Yeah, if I see him going to do something, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but how do you? I mean, you got to use your discretion. If you're wrong, you end up charged with second-degree murder. You're hiding for the rest of your life.
Sir, and just on that, okay, because it's a good discussion. It's a good discussion, and I appreciate both sides, okay? Typically speaking, people that are committing, we're never going to get rid of property crime. Never. There are things that drive property crime, okay? A large part of it is drugs, okay? It is part of it, okay? It's a reality. I'm speaking from experience. They're stealing to support an addiction. Not all the time, but it's a reality. How many times there has been more than one person out and about stealing stuff? If you think you're going to solve the problem that's right before you, guess again, because there's probably more than one person that's out and about involved in the same property crime.
As many as 10,000 people took to the streets this weekend to voice their concerns over Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain pipeline. That's coming up after the break. Here's a look at Tuesday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. A messy mix of rain and snow in Fredericton and Halifax with a high of +1. Sunny and 1 below in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, +1 under the sun in Cartwright. Snow and +1 in Saguenay, 0 with flurries in Quebec City. Cloudy and +2 in Windsor, Toronto, and in Peterborough. -6 on Tuesday in Timmins, Wawa, and Kapuskasing. A mild day over in northern Manitoba, +6 in Thompson, +4 in Flin Flon and Norway House. Sunny and +5 in Dauphin, 0 in Winnipeg. Nothing but sun across the sky. Welcome back. In Winnipeg, a ride-sharing service for women has just recently celebrated its 2nd anniversary. But volunteers for the group say it's having a hard time keeping up with its success. Brittany Hobson has more.
Now it seems quiet right now.
It's Monday afternoon and Barbara Sinclair is getting ready for her first shift of the day. Sinclair volunteers with Equay Women Helping Women Safe Ride, a local ride-sharing group. It's a relatively slow day, but this isn't always the case. Christine Bruce is one of the co-directors of the group. She says it's struggling to keep up with ride requests.
We had hoped a couple years ago when we started that this wouldn't need to continue. We want to provide safe ride opportunities for women instead of taxis, and here we are not able to even meet all the ride requests that we've had in the last couple of weeks.
Equay just celebrated its 2-year anniversary. It was started as a way to keep women safe from uncomfortable or dangerous situations in taxis. Sinclair is familiar with this. It's what prompted her to start volunteering 5 months ago.
My daughter had a bad experience with a taxi cab at an early morning ride. So now she won't take a cab. So I'm glad that Equay Safe Rides is there, alternative, the second alternative to a cab.
But the need for the service has grown. The group has nearly 17,000 Facebook members and only 45 drivers to accommodate their requests. Bruce says the group has only been able to reach 30% of its requests in the past few weeks. Lisa Hodgins was one of those requests. She says she uses the service because it feels like family.
It's not going in there and not sure who you're sitting next to, you know. It feels like I know them. They're like my sisters.
2 new ride-sharing services started in Winnipeg at the beginning of March. Bruce hopes this will help with Equay's high demand of ride requests.
Those alternatives, just by being here, are going to provide a competition for the taxi companies, therefore hopefully resulting in the taxi companies stepping up their game, if you will, and providing a safer service.
Until then, the group is looking to hire up to 20 more drivers in the next month. Those interested can visit the Equay Women Helping Women Safe Ride Facebook page. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
For those living with addictions in the Northwest Territories, the path to recovery can be a challenge. Now, a Yellowknife resident is calling on the government to help. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs has more.
Jennifer Lafferty knows what it's like to live with addiction.
I struggled with pills. I was taking oxys and different pills. What I later found out was actually fentanyl pills. I thought they were pharmaceutical drugs, and later I found out that they are actually man-made in presses.
Growing up in foster care, both her parents were addicts, and breaking the cycle to get sober in the Northwest Territories wasn't easy. Lafferty says she didn't receive adequate care from her doctor in Yellowknife when she sought treatment for withdrawal symptoms from pills in 2014, and again in 2016 when she went to her doctor with concerns over alcohol dependency.
My concerns weren't taken seriously. I was told that what I was dealing with was in my head. I needed to stop thinking about it and the problems would go away.
Lafferty was put on methadone and antidepressants. She knows she needs help. But people with addictions have to leave the territories to go south for treatment. In November 2017, Lafferty created online petitions asking the government to establish an addictions treatment center in the NWT.
It's been really great. I've got a lot of really good feedback from a lot of individuals who are actually going through this problem.
There hasn't been a residential addictions treatment facility in the NWT since 2013. That was axed by the territorial government because they said enrollment numbers were too low. But from 2016 to 2017, a total of 172 people attended Southern treatment facilities, costing the government $2.2 million. Along with the petition, Lafferty has also written Health Minister Glenn Abernathy with her concerns.
In an email that I sent to Glenn Abernathy, he assured me that the wait times were minimal or non-existent, but unfortunately, from experience with myself and with relatives and friends that are close to me, it's been in months, 2, 3, 4 months waiting to be sent down south.
Minister Abernathy spoke with APTN and said there are no plans for a treatment center this year.
I mean, we still hear that there aren't enough options. We still hear that for individuals who are seeking treatment, we don't have great return, like great programs for people that are coming back from those options, whether it's an on-the-land option or whether it's a facility-based. Some of the community integration we need to do better on.
To date, Lafferty's petition has over 200 signatures and will be discussed in the Legislative Assembly this April. Charlotte Moore Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
It was the biggest protest yet. Thousands of people gathered in Burnaby, British Columbia over the weekend for a First Nations-led march against Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. APTN's Lori Hamlin reports.
The beginning of Protect the Inlet began with the construction of a traditional cedar watch house.
These are tactics we used centuries ago. We had watch house locations to monitor maybe threats coming our way, and we see Kinder Morgan as an ultimate threat.
The watch house is 52 meters from Kinder Morgan's Burnaby tank farm. That's because a temporary injunction obtained by Kinder Morgan meant anyone within 50 meters of their property could be arrested.
Kinder Morgan's got to go.
But that didn't stop over 5,000 protesters from peacefully marching by Kinder Morgan's Burnaby mountain facility towards the watch house. Barney McLeod lives on BC's Sunshine Coast and says he made the trip to Burnaby to help protect his grandchildren.
I got up 4 o'clock this morning, I smudged and I came, and as I was coming over the mountain, I live in Seashell. And I was coming over the mountain, I said to the Creator, we're going to have a great day. And we did. And I hope we continue this thing to the point where we do stop Kinder Morgan.
The oil giant's expansion project will triple oil flow from Alberta's tar sands out to Burrard Inlet. Kinder Morgan's plan is to twin the existing Trans Mountain pipeline, add 3 berths to their water terminal, and build 14 more tanks at their tank farm. Melina Labucan Massimo says the expansion project here in BC will further impact her home in Alberta.
The decisions that are made here on the coast are going to affect us back home. What we've seen in Alberta has been the continual annihilation and destruction of our homelands. We have seen the violation of human and Indigenous rights.
Anti-pipeline demonstrators from all across Canada and the U.S. participated in the event, making it the largest show of opposition to Kinder Morgan's project to date.
Together we have an unprecedented unified action.
My elders say this is only the beginning. Look at the leadership that came from Ontario, Quebec, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, Washington State, South Dakota. From everywhere they're coming, and it's only going to get bigger.
Despite the injunction, no arrests were made, and although legal battles continue to delay pipeline construction, the Liberals approved the project in November 2016. Lori Hamlin, APTN National News, Vancouver.
There's been a development in the case of Philip Talio. In 1964, he was convicted of murder in connection with the death of his 22-month-old cousin, Delavina Mack, in Bella Coola, British Columbia. Now, the British Columbia Court of Appeal has ordered the DNA sample used to convict Talio to be unsealed for further testing. The decision was unanimous. Talio's lawyers are convinced the DNA will exonerate him and point to another relative as the real killer of Delavina Mack. The countdown is on for the Arctic Winter Games. That story and more coming up after the break. Here's a look at the rest of Tuesday's weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta, +8 in Peace River and Fort McMurray, 9 above in Calgary, +7 in Medicine Hat and Lethbridge. A rainy day on the west coast, +11 in Victoria, Vancouver, Penticton and Port Hardy, 12 above in Prince Rupert, +10 in sunny skies in Prince George. A mild day across Yukon, +9 in Whitehorse, sunny and 8 above in Mayo. Beautiful day in NWT, sunny and 7 above in Fort Liard and Trout Lake. Not so lucky in the north, -24 in Sax Harbor, 11 below in Inuvik. Over to Nunavut, -27 in Repulse Bay, a frigid 31 below in Cambridge Bay. Resolute is the cold spot at -33, -12 in Iqaluit. Welcome back. The spirit of Arctic Games is in the air. There's only 1 week left until the official Arctic Winter Games begin in the Northwest Territories. But before that, youth in Yellowknife are practicing up their skills in 8 different sports. Our reporter Charlotte Morg-Jacobs has more.
While she may not have taken home gold today, Dale Cole will keep practicing 2-foot high kick.
I kind of just like look at the ball, and then I just think it's lower. I measure it, and I kind of just think about like how I could kick higher.
This is the 4th year she has participated in the 3-day Traditional Games Championship in Yellowknife.
I like to compete against people, but like I kind of think it's like really fun, and I get to like challenge my capabilities.
Joining Cole are over 120 other youth ages 10 to 12 from across 15 communities in the Northwest Territories. Cole is from the small Inuvialuit community of Sikachik. Traveling to the games means meeting new friends and getting tips from longtime officials like Steve Cockney.
Our games are quite unique in that it is our culture, it is our background for what we do back home in the north.
Cockney says the games like high kick were created as a way of training on the land and connect youth with their past.
It's not only for the legs, it's the endurance of your body, because a while back when our ancestors, our grandparents, they used to live off the land. They had to be physically fit to live off the land in order to survive. So when these games came about, they got good at it, they improved in what they're doing in their walks of life.
Organizers say in its 6th year, the games have pushed youth to try something new.
See kids here that have just learned how to do 1-foot, 2-foot high kick a few weeks ago, and they practice for 2 weeks straight to come here, and they love it, and they're so excited, and they love being able to show it off.
Outside, Cole is met by her teammate Austin. This game, the pole push, is all about combining one's strength to push the pole onto the opponent's side.
Pole push, it's fun, it's challenging. Where I am, I'm at the end of the pole, so then I have to lock my hands, put it on the pole, and then grip my feet in the snow and push.
The Traditional Games Championship will wrap up tomorrow with snow snake, arm pull, hand games, and 1-foot high kick. Charlotte Morg-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Can't wait to see the stories coming out of the games. The Canadian Screen Awards wrapped up last night in Toronto. This year, some Indigenous productions were nominated. Among them, Rumble, Indians Who Rock the World, which won in 2 categories: Best Editing in a Feature-Length Documentary and Best Cinematography in a Feature-Length Documentary. The film talks about the missing chapter in music and how Indigenous musicians helped shape pop culture.
They have the culture. They were there before us, before anyone else. And so, the fact that people were always trying to strip away their land and strip away their culture, the music survived. And I think through the music, Rumble gives you sort of a music history, but also gives you an Indigenous history that we need to know about and need to recognize.
I believe Rumble also won Best Documentary, but that's your APTN National News for this Monday. For news anytime, including more on the National Inquiry in Montreal, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.